Hi, welcome
Hi.
back to the Moms Interrupted podcast. We have Debbie here. She is a parent coach and a bunch of other titles. So we'll let her dive in soon with an introduction. But first, it was kind of crazy the way this all came together because Natasha here got a business card from her pediatrician
Yeah.
as a reference to you
Oh,
to help her out.
yeah.
And I was like, I know this person. I have taught a class with her. So we both were like, this is a sign she has to come on. She's so amazing, has things to help us with our toddlers, but also all of our listeners. So it was
Yeah.
kind of a cool moment.
Yeah.
You were highly recommended by
Yes.
multiple people.
Oh, yeah.
that.
I was like,
That's
my
great.
3-year-old is having so many big emotions. What do you recommend? And she was like, I'm going to give you Debbie's card.
So fine. What a small
worked out.
world.
Yeah.
The parenting world is a small
Yeah.
one.
It's
Yeah.
pretty
It
cool.
was meant to be.
It was
It's meant
meant
It
to
all
be.
came together.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh,
We're
I'm
so
so
excited
happy.
to dive in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you dive into an introduction, a little bit about yourself, all of the different credentials you have, and kind of your goal in terms of helping parents and what you do?
So my name is Debbie Zeichner, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and parent coach. And I always say my big liner is that I was the perfect parent until I had kids. I don't know if any of you can relate to that, if any of the moms listening can relate to that.
Yeah.
But I got into this work. I previously had a psychotherapy practice, and then I became a mom. And as soon as I became a mom, I thought, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. All the training that I had, none of it was working. I was overwhelmed. I was stressed. I was anxious. And so I dove into parenting. I took classes. I went through a lot, and I became really passionate with what I was learning. And it was so different than how I was raised. So I thought, you know what? I got to shift here. I got to pivot. So I closed up my therapy practice and opened up my own parent coaching practice once I became certified to teach positive discipline. And I haven't looked back since. It's been the
Amazing.
best decision I've made.
Amazing.
Really cool.
And you are a mom too.
I'm a
Right.
mom of 2. I have 2 spicy kiddos, I like to call them. They're both very, very strong-willed. Great kids, very strong-willed. My son is 18 and my daughter's 16. So I've been through it all, and I do specialize in the strong-willed kiddos, the
Okay.
big emotions,
Big emotions.
it's just the power struggles. I've really lived and breathed it and been in the trenches, so I get it.
It's really cool to have the experience that you have and then also be a mom and be like, look, I know what they tell you, but here's real life practical stuff. And that's how we feel too. We both became moms and we're like, okay, we need to be in this world and help other people because there's a lot of things that people tell you, whether they're experts or not. You have to do it this way. This is the right way to do things. But until you're a mom, all of that stuff is not applicable or it doesn't work on your kid.
Doesn't work on your kid, that's the
so
thing.
it's so important to have that perspective when you're giving advice. And so we're excited to
Yeah.
hear all of the tips and tricks
Yeah.
and all of your
And I don't
experience.
do this perfectly. That's the thing for moms to know. None of us do this perfectly. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. And it's so important that we give ourselves grace. So many of the parents I work with, I will say, please just give yourself some grace, give yourself permission to just not know and have that be okay and
Right.
be kind and gentle with yourself because this is hard. Toddlers are beautiful and special and wonderful and a lot of work. A lot of work.
Right. Oh, we
What?
know.
Just because I feel like a lot of listeners, and myself included, are probably really interested in terms of, you said you got the certification for positive discipline.
Yes.
What is positive discipline and what did that training entail? What are the fundamentals for
Mhm.
that?
So basically, what I would say is that positive discipline is about parenting in a way that's kind and firm at the same time. So it's not all kind, which is permissive parenting. There's no rules, there's no limits, there's no boundaries, kind of anything goes. And it's not all firm, which is authoritarian parenting. You're going to do it my way or else. It's what we call authoritative or democratic. Discipline also is about teaching. That's the thing. So it's all about teaching versus punishing versus controlling. And so let's see, an example off the top of my head of what kind and firm might sound like. It might sound something like, it's okay to be frustrated. I would be frustrated too if somebody knocked over my toy. And, not but, and I can't let you hit. It's my job to keep you safe. Please show me your gentle hands. So kind and firm is where we allow the feelings and we limit any harmful or hurtful behaviors. So there's boundaries, but instead of harsh boundaries that are punitive, they are boundaries that are set with kindness and with respect. Because our kids are always watching and they're learning how to be in relationship with others through how we're in relationship with them.
Can you dive in a little into the and versus but?
It is really subtle and it's really huge. The first half of what we say in this kind of situation is typically the positive. Take like, I love you, but can you da 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 da, right? So it's like the second half just negates it. Whereas when you say the and, it's much more connecting. I love you and I would really appreciate your help. Or and I would. So it just keeps the brain more open and more accessible and more tuned in versus the but, which you just kind of tune out the first half of that.
I mean, just applying that to myself. If someone said, I love you, but I'd be like, excuse you, So it makes sense.
Yes.
And they're 2
Yes.
and 3, and I'm going to get crunchy, but I always feel like energy is kids' first language. And so even if they don't understand your words, they understand your energy and what your body language is telling them and all that. So I feel like that plays into the but.
Absolutely. And, the other thing, it just reminds me that, so much of what I talk with parents about and in my work and just things like this, we talk about tools, we talk about strategies, we talk about tips, but this is really about being in relationship. Speaking of energy, this is about being in relationship with another human being, right? It's not about, I'm going to use this technique on my child. It's about how can I be in relationship with this young human who's still learning and growing and developing. So that energy is everything. And that's how they learn. They internalize that energy. So it's like good news, bad news, because it's not like we have to be perfect, because obviously you're going to have moments where your energy isn't great because you're tired, you're hungry, you're exhausted and wiped out. And they are absorbing that energy. And that's how they move through life.
Yeah. It's hard not to get overwhelmed and remember the co-regulation. And an example that I've been dealing with a lot with my 2-year-old, he loves to hit me and throw things at me. What would you tell a parent to do when that happens?
What have you tried?
I have tried because I do feel like the gentle hands thing was going around a lot on social media. So, of course, I, would try to redirect to a high five, or gentle hands, something like that. But I feel like I wasn't doing it intentionally enough, maybe, or consistently enough. And then I would get frustrated because I've been doing this for a month and you don't get it.
Yeah.
So everything goes out the window. I get frustrated. I yell. I don't know. Sometimes it seems so out of my control.
Well, and you're trying to use the gentle hands and it's not working. And you're like, gentle hands. I said, use your gentle hands. Just like, oh, whoops, that's not what I meant to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you notice are situations where it tends to happen more often? Have you noticed any patterns?
So I do recognize that it tends to happen when I can't give him 100% of myself. So I do think that when I'm playing with him one-on-one, that doesn't happen. He doesn't hit me or throw things at me because we're playing together and we're having fun. But then if mom has to do something and he's not getting that attention, it's just so interesting, though, because then you hear people say, don't give them too much attention because they need to be bored. They need to figure it out on their own. They need to be resilient. And then I'm like, but if I don't give him attention, he hits me.
Right.
So tell me what to do.
Right. So all behavior is a communication. And it's a communication of unmet needs and big emotions, right? Speaking about big emotions. And young children do not yet have the experience or verbal ability to say, hey, you know what, mommy, when you're distracted or when you're doing something else and you're not giving me your full attention, that's really frustrating and hard for me. So I think what I'm going to do or I'm going to try is I'm going to use what I have available to me, which are my hands, my teeth, my legs, and I'm going to use them. And I'm going to hope that you're going to understand what I'm trying to communicate. They can't say that, they can't do that, but that's what the behavior is about. So, one of the most helpful things that we can do, and I have parents ask me this question all the time, so it is really, really common, is just to get curious. There are patterns, and being aware of those patterns is helpful because then it helps you to plan ahead. So, a couple things I'll say is that so many of the behaviors that we see in our kids, especially our really young kids, are unlearned skills. They're skills that they haven't developed yet. So, again, he hasn't developed the ability to say to you, Mommy, I just really want some more of your time. Can we just play? I just want to. He can't verbalize that to you. So, he acts because young children are really, really impulsive and they lack impulse control. And they will continue to lack that impulse control and many other skills through like early adulthood, still developing. So, what's helpful in those moments is to be able to pause and get curious, which I know is the hardest thing. I know it's so easy to say, oh, just pause and be calm. I get that that's not an easy thing to do. And there's a reason that we say it because it's really what works. And you mentioned co regulation. So, a dysregulated child needs a regulated adult to help them find their way back to calm. So, even saying something like, I think you really want some time with mommy. Can you say, Mommy, I want some time with you? Oh, I love these hands. These hands are for being gentle. Can you say, Mom? Right? So, even though he might not be able to say that yet, he's hearing that. So, what you're doing is you're teaching him the skill that he's lacking. So it's easy to say, go to your room, you hit me, or time out for 2 minutes because it's easy to kind of send away. But the reality is that he can't help it. He's like, well, I'm doing the best that I can with what I've got. And I don't have much because I've only been on the planet for 2 years. So can you teach me? Remember, discipline is about teaching and guiding.
Yeah. When a toddler is hitting you and you are using all those tools to try to redirect and use positive discipline, when should the turning point be in terms of me looking at him being like, you're a baby, this is excusable, versus this is something I have to be concerned about?
I think when it's really interfering with his ability to like function, when it's really impairing that. So he can't go anywhere without touching something, or he's always hitting or moving, or just kind of, because then for some kids, it's like a more of a sensory issue. They're looking for some sensory input. A lot of it, though, is really normal and typical for the stage. And when you think of it as, okay, I need to teach him the skills that he needs. So it's about teaching him what we want him to do versus what we don't want him to do. Right? And a lot of times they do need to hear things over and over. So you're like the broken record. You're like, I've gone over it a million times. Why isn't it working? And for young kids, they take time to learn.
So there's not like a age where all of a sudden you're like, okay, I redirected, I've been trying to be their inner voice. And now you're 4 and now you get a timeout because you're old enough to move on to the next stage or whatever. That's not.
So it's a little tricky
Yeah.
because, the way that we look at it is that there's always a reason.
Mhm.
So if we just go straight to the timeouts, then we're kind of missing the why. So if we're not addressing the why, it's like, well, what's the need? Right? And it might be that the need is for more, we talk about a need for attention. It's also really about a need for connection. Like attention sounds like, oh, they just want my attention versus they want to feel connected. Because at the end of the day, that's really all our kids want. They want to feel seen, heard, understood, and valued. That's it.
Yeah.
When they don't, they're going to let you know.
So you mentioned timeouts.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things online right now about timeouts versus time-ins. Can you walk us through like what the difference is and what you recommend?
Yeah. When you think about a timeout, you think about sports, right? That's where timeout started. And when you think about how a timeout in sports works, something's not going right in the game. So what do? You take a timeout, you huddle together, you talk about what's not working. That it's like a coming together. And somewhere along the way, timeout became really punitive. right? Oh, you're 2, you go sit in this chair for 2 minutes, or you're 3, you go sit here for 3 minutes, and we're like sending away. So we're sending a child away at a time that they actually need us the most. And we're not equipping them with the skills that they're lacking in the first place. So oftentimes when we want to give a timeout, I always say, check yourself, because it might be you as the parent that needs the timeout, and that's okay. And what it sounds like is, you know what? I'm getting really frustrated right now. I love you. I need to go take some time. I need to go calm my body. And when you say that versus yelling versus being reactive, suddenly your child's like, wait, what? Wait, what's that? Wait, you're breathing? Wait, you walk away when you're upset? What's happening? Again, you're teaching a skill. So the timeouts are not as effective as we would hope or like them to be, because again, we send a child away, but they're not going away with the skill. So he's not saying like, okay, you know what? I'm going to sit here, and you know what? When I hit mommy today and I threw that shoe at her, that probably wasn't a good idea. And I think next time what I need to do is I think next time I need to use my word. Like, they can't do that, right? They're feeling disconnected. They're feeling anxious. They're feeling scared. They're feeling overwhelmed. So the time in is supposed to be about understanding the need for connection, that a dysregulated child needs a regulated adult to find their way back to calm. So when we bring our child in, it helps their nervous system regulate. And when their nervous system is regulated, then they're more open to your beautiful wisdom and guidance that you have so much to give.
Mhm.
So I always say, when you feel the need to take a time out or give a timeout, see if it's something that you can take for yourself. That said, sometimes it's just about safety. And sometimes a child needs a little bit of time on their own. And it also depends on the child, because every child is so different. So some kids do better when they're on their own, or they need that space. And others need that closeness and connection of the parent. So you're the expert on your child. You know your child best. What have you found helpful? Have you tried timeouts? Have they been helpful? Have they not?
I don't trust that kid on a timeout alone anywhere except like maybe his crib, but no, he's crazy. But also, he's not even 2 yet. He's
Yeah.
almost 2. So it just feels way too young to even think about that.
Yeah.
But I'm always interested in it because I for sure got put on timeouts when I was younger. I don't know if it helped or not, but I remember that they were a little traumatizing. Because I remember being alone in my room and crying, and that's what I remember about them.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything else, but
I do think that there's something to be said about breaking it up, because what I found with my son is he gets really rambunctious. He plays very physically with other kids. And sometimes we just need to break it up. And then I can kind of talk him through, okay, you want to use your body, you're wrestling. I think that's too. He's also just really big and strong. And so he could be hurting the other kids.
Right.
So I have to take a time out with him and be like, hey, we're playing too rough. If I see you playing rough like this again, there is going to be a consequence. We use a star jar, and I'm curious about what you think about all of those sorts of things. But what I try to do, like redirect and put a different activity out, talk to him about we can't play rough because we can't hurt our friends, and then kind of bring the energy down. That's how I feel like I can be productive in that sense, not like sending him to his room and being like,
Right.
think about what you've done,
Right.
right? Because we both have had those like traumatizing situations. And then you're scared of your parents, and it's a whole thing.
And you're not learning.
Not learning. I'm
Not
just
learning.
like, I won't do that because I'm scared,
Yes.
right? I'm not learning any actual skills. But I do think that there's something to be said about breaking it up and being like, there's a consequence for when I tell you we can't act like that, there's a consequence for it. I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you think about that. Okay, for example, because I'm just talking in circles now, but yesterday my nephew was over. He's almost 2 also. And my son is 3.5. And they were playing in these cars. And my son ran into my nephew, who's significantly smaller and younger, with the car. They're both in cars. So it was like a bumper car situation. But we told him, okay, you can't do that because it's not safe. You know, they're playing for a little while longer. He does it again. I say, okay, it's not safe. You need to come out and talk to me. We go up to his room together. He's crying. I'm holding him. I'm telling him, you know, it's okay. I understand it's frustrating. We had to stop. That was really fun for you.
Love
But
it. Love it.
But it wasn't safe. And so I have to take you away from that situation. And he says, okay, can I go back? I won't do it again. And I say, no, because you did it again after I gave you a warning the first time. And so we're going to be all done with that activity today. We can try again tomorrow. And I just wonder, is that the right way to handle that? Because, when you don't listen, there's a consequence for that.
So I think there's so many things that you did that were absolutely beautiful, because I think that validation, remember, our kids want to feel seen and heard. Remember, they lack impulse control. And oftentimes their impulses get the better of them. So does he want to does he want to act like that? No,
Yeah.
but he gets excited.
Kinda wants to, it seems like.
He's excited.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So I think being able to, and then what you did was, it wasn't a timeout per se, but you took a break, right? You kind of said, let's huddle together and
Yeah.
see. And I think that there's something really important about trying again.
Okay.
And what you can do at that point is, like, can I try again? You can say, yes. What do we need to remember about how we play with the cars? And you ask him and you let him tell you. And he might say, we don't do this, we don't do this, we don't. And you'd say, well, what do we do? How can you? So it's not a negative, but it's focused on what he can do. So we play gently, or whatever the situation
Yeah, I
was.
was letting them drive around on the street, right?
Yes.
And in front
so
of
you
our house.
can stay on the street.
you
You
can
can
drive.
go straight. You
Right.
can, right, whatever that is that you're really, really clear, you have him repeat it back to you, right? And you give him an opportunity to try again.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Then let's say he tries and he does great. And you're like, you know what? I really appreciate that. What was that like for you? You did it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening and following the directions and
Right.
playing kindly. Maybe he doesn't. And that's when you walk over and you can say, hey, I see that you're having a hard time following the rules. So the activity ends for today. Let's try again tomorrow.
Gotcha.
Then tomorrow comes and we say, okay, what do we need to remember about how we play with the cards, or how we play with our friends, or so you prep them ahead of time, but you're involving him and you're collaborating with him. So it's not a lecture. You need to do this and this and this and this. But now he's part of it, which allows him to feel seen and heard and connected. So now he's going to be more open to listening and cooperating because he feels a part of it. So I always say, like, consequences are just kind of a last resort. And that's not, and I'm not like anti consequences, but
Yeah.
if we're going to use a consequence, it does need to be related. So the fact you weren't saying no dessert for you,
Right.
which a lot of parents will do.
Yeah.
You did this, so now you can't, have dessert.
Well, not about dessert, but I'm like, no, Miss Rachel, if you do this.
Yeah. So it should be, which is common.
comes
We've
naturally.
all done that because we get flustered and we get dysregulated, and look how easy it happens.
Yeah.
It happens so easily.
So many times a day.
Yes.
Right.
Or and yet we know better. We know we're not supposed to yell. We know we're not, but do we do it anyway? Sometimes yes. And then we're looking at our young kids and we're thinking, well, they need to know what to do. And but here we are with like fully developed brains that know better. So that's where I say we have to give ourselves grace. We have to give our kids some grace, right? And again, this isn't about no boundaries. This isn't about letting him do whatever he wants. We have to have those boundaries. That's how our kids learn. It's just how we set them.
I think what gets confusing is giving your kids grace, but also holding the boundary, right? So being like, this is the boundary. I'm going to give you grace, and trying to figure out how to manage that. Because I'm in the situation yesterday with my son and the cars, and he's in his room and he's crying. And I'm like, okay, well, we're done with that activity for the day because you couldn't follow directions. And then he's like, can I please try again? And I'm panicking. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to give him another shot,
Yeah.
but I already told him he couldn't. So I don't want to go back on that, but I want to give him grace. And I feel like my word needs to be as good as gold so that he knows I'm serious. But then I also want to allow him another chance. And it's just like you start spiraling out of control. And then I just am like, you know what? I said something and I have to stick to it. And that's that. And I'll try to be a better parent tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like that's literally what goes through my head.
I think a good learning here, though, what you said is like giving that opportunity after you have done the time in.
Right.
Because then it's like, this is what we do when you're not following the rules. And this is what happened. And this is how you do it right. And then giving opportunity, it gives them the skill to know that's what they're learning.
Right.
And I didn't think of it like that before. Like just making sure you're giving the opportunity after the time in.
And that's a time that kids can learn, right? When they are calm and when you're calm, because you could always go back and revisit that experience and even focus on repair and say, you know what, earlier, I know we had a difficult time with the cars. and it was hard. You were having so much fun. And, next thing you knew, we had to take a break, and that happens. And what can we try differently next time? Let's think about it.
Yeah.
So now when you ask your kids these kinds of questions, their brain has to stop and think, okay, what do I need to do next time? And not to say they're going to say, oh, next time I'm going to, but still you're teaching a skill. You're teaching the skill of critical thinking, problem solving, decision making, right? And you're involving them so they're much more likely to listen and be open to cooperating. Because again, they lack the skills. And so that's where the focus is. It's like, okay, it's my job to teach the skills that they're lacking,
Yeah.
right? And the try again is a beautiful thing. I love that. I love do-overs because even, you handle a situation that you're not proud of, and that's okay. It happens. And then what you do is you go back and say, you know what, earlier today, when I yelled at you and I got really frustrated, that's not okay. And I apologize. And next time I need to take a deep breath and walk away. And that's something that I'm going to work on because our relationship is important to me. So I was like, wait, what do you mean walk away? Take a deep breath. That's how that learning takes place. So the boundaries are there. It is okay to try again, so long as you make that agreement, called making agreements ahead of time. Because the other thing that you're doing is you're modeling flexibility.
Yeah.
Which is important,
Right.
right? Kids at this age especially, they're very rigid.
Black and white.
Black and
They
white.
don't understand exceptions.
No, and like fairness and rules and justice and, all of that's fair, all of that.
Right.
And so there is something to be said about us being able to model flexibility.
Yeah, the modeling thing is huge because I've heard so many times they learn from what you do, not what you say. That's kind of segues into something else is I've heard that just like talking to them about all these things, their little brains aren't super developed yet. My son's 3.5. Her son is
No, I would.
2. Is there an age where you can't like get into the weeds with them on their behavior and talk through these things because they
shut down.
They shut down and they're just not capable of really understanding complex emotions.
Right.
So is it just modeling the behavior more for, say, her son versus my son who is 3.5 going on 4 and he understands reasoning? Is
Yeah.
that like where is that?
When I was listening to you describe it, I was like trying to think of me going in a room with my son,
Right.
talking to him about this.
Right.
He would literally be like, huh? Like, what?
Mama?
Mama?
So that's where it comes down more back to energy.
Okay. Yeah.
You can still talk. I mean, listen, the more verbal we are with our kids, the better because they are developing those skills. And remember that the way that we talk to our kids and the words that we use, that is what they internalize. So it's not that you want to sit and give your 2-year-old a whole lecture. Absolutely not, because they will be like, oh my God, I'm out of it. So oftentimes it's less words, more about action, less words. But it goes back to what you were saying, Natasha, about energy, because that's what he's going to feed off of. He's going to feed off of your energy.
Yeah.
Right? Because if we're like anxious and frustrated and flustered, like that's going to get their nervous systems going. And then you're going to see the hitting.
Yeah.
Right?
We talked about consequences. Can we talk about rewards? It comes up a lot even with potty training or even when kids sometimes get their first haircut, the hairdresser gives a lollipop or something. And I'm like, is this getting a little this seems like, why do we have to give our kids a reward for every single thing they do for a young toddler? Is it good to teach them if you do things that you already should be doing just normally, like getting a haircut, should you be getting a lollipop for that? Because then if you don't get the lollipop every time, you're going to expect a lollipop. And it just seems a little intense.
It's like participation awards.
Yeah.
Is it necessary to get a reward after basic tasks that
Like, I understand getting an award
society.
for big achievements in school or even at home, making big achievements. But for small day-to-day things, it seems like we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah. It comes down to motivation, and it comes down to, are we trying to build internal motivation or external motivation? So with the rewards, and I always say, like, I'm never here to take anything. If somebody's doing rewards and it's working for their child, then beautiful. Beautiful.
Ride that till the wheels fall off.
Exactly.
Because they will.
I would say in so many of the parenting classes I've taught over the many years, I would say I have so many parents that will come and say, okay, well, when everybody would go around and introduce themselves, I would say, well, we're here because our reward charts weren't working anymore. Because at a certain point, when a child says, well, I don't want the M&M, I want to go to Disneyland, or I don't need this. And then the parent's like, well, now what do I do?
Well, you have to keep upping it.
You have to
right?
keep upping it. And so then it gets really stressful. And then what's happening is the child's so focused on what, like the outside thing that they're getting versus what's being built in here. So it depends on what the situation is. When I talk with parents about this, I usually say there's not really a need for it. There's other ways of teaching behavior and motivating kids that don't have to come externally. And that goes for a lot of different things. We talk about like praise versus encouragement. Praise is like, good job, right? Versus encouragement. So to give you an example, your child brings you something that they've scribbled. Typically what we say as parents, what do you say to that? Your child shows you something and what do you typically say?
Love it.
Yay, good job.
Word for word.
Yes. And the kid's like, yay, and it feels good, right? It's like
Mhm.
getting a piece of candy. Like it feels really good. Okay. So imagine now if your child brings it to you, and I know it's a little different depending on the age, but when you say, oh my gosh, look at this. You put this here, and this, I see you use pink and purple and blue, and how did you do this? What's your favorite part about this? Now who is it about?
Them.
It's about them. It's about the
What they like.
process. Like it's about the process versus the end result. So that's an example of using praise, right? When we say good job, now it's then like, oh, you're happy. So now like it becomes about us
And the reaction.
and the reaction
What they get
and there's
from
like
us.
there's judgment in that, right? Because what if it's not good? And we're like, oh, that one's not right.
But like, that's not your best.
Not your best word.
So it reminds me of rewards because when we think about like what are we teaching a child, we want a child to own it and we want to make it about them, right? So instead of I'm so proud of you as an example, which not that you never say that. I mean, there's no absolutes here.
Right.
An alternative is, wow, you must be really proud of yourself. How did you do that? Or you did it.
Why does that sound so condescending to me? I'm like, oh, you should be so proud of yourself. You're right. I should say that.
I think that what this whole conversation so far has taught me is to not look at my baby as a baby and to just connect with Kelly as a person. I get caught up in he's a baby, so I'm not going to explain this like elaborately to him. I'm not going to use big vocabulary or say things other than woo or yay. And I think that's doing a disservice to both of us. And it's just a good reminder that in order to connect, you've said this before, get down on their level. And it's just a good reminder because I don't remember to do that.
That connection is it's the foundation of positive discipline. It really is the foundation. Connection is everything. And when in doubt, it's about connection. It's about empathy. And it's about, again, helping your child feel seen and heard because they don't get it yet, right? They're looking to you as their guide, as their mentor, as their coach, right? To teach and help them understand.
To your point, it's really hard because as moms, we have so many things that we're juggling.
Yes.
And so it's really hard to be like, okay, I'm going to stop doing whatever I'm doing and get down on the floor and do something that I don't want to do, that doesn't feel pressing and it doesn't feel important, playing with dinosaurs or whatever it is, because that's literally the last thing I want to do. I'm sorry, but I don't want to pretend play dinosaurs.
Especially when there's dishes piling up and there's laundry to be done.
I was
and
like,
the whole
sorry
thing.
if that makes
Yeah.
me a terrible mom. But I have heard this before, right? You have to connect with them. I try to tell myself what are activities that he likes to do that I also like to do. I don't mind playing Play-Doh. I don't mind like painting. Like I'll set up like a paint station or something. Like those are things that I can get on board with. I don't want to pretend play dinosaurs. I don't want to pretend that I'm a dragon and run around. But there are things that I can like level with him. Or come cook with me.
Yeah.
He likes to cook with me in the kitchen or he likes to pretend do dishes. So I try when I can, when I have the capacity and the patience, like get on his level and do that because I do think it makes a huge difference to your point and he loves it.
Yes.
And he loves playing with his dad. And I think that part of the reason is because he gets on his level and he does play dinosaurs and all those things with him. Whereas like I'm like, well, I'm busy. I need to do the laundry. I'm making people meals. I've got a baby attached to
Mhm.
me, all these different things.
Yep.
But when I do make the time to do that, I do see differences.
It's
And
instant. And as you said, it's about finding the time.
Yeah.
And we have to have the mental capacity to do that. And the reality is that we don't always have the mental capacity to do that. And that's okay.
yeah,
Like, I think it's so much about like, okay, I don't have that in me right now. And like, I have to be okay with that and give yourself permission that
Right.
that's not where you are in that moment. We all have our strengths and we all have things that we're still working on. You mentioned something that he loves to cook with you. So a lot of time kids are just natural pleasers and they love to help. And so that's another way of connecting is, hey, I could really use your I need a helper. Has anyone seen a helper around? I'm looking for, and like they love that.
yeah.
So
I do that
even
with the
if you're-
baby. Can you get me a diaper? I need a helper. And he loves that
Yes.
because he loves to just be included.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then thank you so much. That was really helpful. Look at her face and how happy she is that you helped. And that was really appreciative. They have these little heart tanks. And when their heart tanks are full, then they're listening, they're cooperating, things are running smoothly. When their heart tanks are low, so they're not feeling connected, they're tired, they're hungry, all those kind of reasons, then that's when you tend to see more of that acting out. So the reality is that we do the best that we can. Some days you're going to be in play mode, and other days you're going to be like, oh my God, that's the last thing. Play was really hard for me. When my kids were younger, I did not want to sit and like do the thing. Even now, sometimes my son will say, oh, come, sheep baskets with me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to do this. And then like you start to think about how it's going to make the rest of the day go.
Right.
Right. Because remember, it's like you're doing these little deposits in that
Mhm.
little love tank.
Yeah.
You do the best that you can.
It's like I have to add it into my vocabulary,
Mm.
right? Because it's not something that comes naturally to me. And
Mhm.
I have all of these like glass balls that I'm trying to
Yeah.
juggle
Yeah.
and just adding it in there because I forget about it.
Yeah.
Because whereas my husband is like, let's go play ball. That's fun for him. So it's totally in his vocabulary.
Yes.
Right. It doesn't have to be this huge time commitment. I don't have to take him to the playground for hours, but just having it in the back of my mind, adding in the glass ball. And some days it's the ball that has to drop, but some days I'm prioritizing it.
And technically, it is about 15 minutes, right? That can really make a game changer in terms of connections.
Yes, absolutely. There is kind of that magic number. And I think sometimes that number stresses parents out because I'll have parents say, well, it's been 5 minutes. Am I done?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, just do the best that you can. If you have 2 minutes, and you know what? Sometimes it's like your child sitting there playing and you go up behind them and you just give them a hug and say, I love you so much.
Yeah.
I am so lucky to be your mom. And you go off and you do your thing. Right. So I just think, again, it's like, how do I help my child feel seen and heard?
I
Yeah.
like the deposit thing
It's-
because then it doesn't feel like it's this huge, whether it's 15 minutes or however many minutes. I'm the kind of person that stresses
Yeah, it
me
would
out.
stress you out, right? It would
Like,
stress me out too.
Like the number.
I think it's just because I'm with my toddler 24/7 every second. So I'm like, 15 minutes. That's like at 6 a.m. I already reached 15 minutes of connection time.
No, but like
It's overwhelming.
I'm like anal, right? So I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's got to be 15 minutes. I set a timer. Everything's locked away where I feel like you can go with the flow more. We were talking about growth charts with the pediatrician, and I'm like, well, he's off the growth chart by a 3%. And like Taylor's like, whatever. Like, look at her. She's healthy. Like, she looks great, And for me, I'm like, well, it's, gotta
Yeah.
be this way. It's black and white. And I'm trying to be less like that, but it's just not natural for me.
Right.
But I understand what you're saying about the 15-minute thing. And so the deposit thing is a better way for me personally to look at it and be like
Mhm.
putting little deposits into their little tank and filling up their cup in a way that is less black and white and it's more accessible.
Because it doesn't always feel sustainable to
Right,
do it
like,
that way.
you
It's
fall
too much
off.
pressure. Yeah.
And then you feel guilty,
Yes,
right? And so
yes.
yeah.
So I think of it as just it's intentionality. If you wake up in the morning and you think, okay, how do I want my day to go? I'm really big on visualization. So, and you can use it for anything, but even just like starting your day with, okay, what do I want? Or what do I want the morning to be like? What do I want the next hour to look like? And sort of like visualizing yourself showing up as you would like, being intentional, playing, being patient, slowing down, just whatever that might look like for you.
Yeah.
And when you visualize it, you mentally rehearse it and it actually helps it to come to fruition.
Manifest it.
and manifest.
like it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's just being intentional. I'm going to do the best that I can to spend a few minutes today just really focused on my child. That's really what it's about.
Yeah.
Because when we don't, they will let you know. That's how they use their behavior. Remember that behavior is communication. So suddenly you're being hit and suddenly this is happening and that's happening. And you're like, ooh, okay, what is that behavior trying to tell me? And so getting curious about that. So that just being intentional and just
Yeah.
kind of setting those mini intentions for yourself. And maybe you're able to do it, maybe you're not, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I say we just have to do the best that we can. Too much pressure. Like you said, we put so much pressure on ourselves.
Right. Well, just having those like time blocks too, where you're thinking, okay, I'm going to be intentional about whatever time I think is so important. I'm just thinking about our experience, right? Like
Mhm.
you're home with your 2-year-old and I'm home with the baby right now. My son's in preschool. I'm going to be intentional about that chunk of time and then checking in with yourself after that. Okay, now I'm going to be intentional about all these other things that I have to do for this chunk of time. And then I'm going to be intentional about being with the baby instead of just letting everything flow and just going into it. Here we are again. It can feel like survival mode. Where if you're doing those check-ins and making an intention and thinking through, then you can set yourself up for success.
Well, because you have needs
Yeah.
yourself. I mean, that's the thing. We tend to focus so much on our kids and we're not like, okay, well, wait, what do I need right now? I maybe need a break right now. And being able to give yourself permission about that. So it all fits in and it's about how do you make it work for you. And I think just finding ways to have our kids just help us with what we're already doing. They just want to be near. So even if your little one, you're doing dishes and you hand them and they're imitating, so they love to watch what you do and then do that.
A lot of the times when we're talking about connection, finding those 15 minutes, we're home with our babies. Do you find that parents encounter more connection issues when their babies go to daycare sooner? And how do they combat that? Is it finding a daycare that fits your values and is prioritizing connection? I just wonder how a parent would navigate that when it's really early on.
Can you say a little bit more?
So, when we're talking about prioritizing one-on-one time and
Mhm.
connection,
Mm-hmm.
how do you prioritize connection when it's a 6-to-1 ratio, right?
Oh, like how do they prioritize it at daycare or how do
Yeah.
you as a parent prioritize like your time with them even though it's so much smaller than a stay-at-home mom?
Right,
Both.
exactly,
Both.
because your connection might just be throwing them their lunchbox and getting them out the door.
Yeah.
Because you have to rush, and
Well,
that's, to no fault of anyone.
right.
I just wonder how you navigate it. It's such a different conversation, and I'm wondering if parents come to you with those questions, if they experience more behavioral attachment issues when their baby is in daycare.
So maybe the question of whether how much connection they're getting at the daycare, smaller ratios are always better. And I think also like kids are connecting with each other. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
other things that are taking place. And so I think that as long as you have that sense that your child is being seen, is being cared for, and you will see an increase in behaviors because they're learning things from other kids. And again, they are communicating, but they're going to see something that happens at daycare and then come home and try it out. And you're gonna be like, where is this coming from? But a lot of times it's just completely normal. And really, you're the primary attachment. So that's what's the most important is that connection with you.
So like prioritizing quality, even if say they go to daycare 8 to 6 and you only see them for 2 hours of the day, 5 days a week, right? This hits home because my daughter's going to daycare in the fall. But like prioritizing that quality time when you are with them, I would think, right? Even though it's not a huge quantity, prioritizing the quality.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, what I've noticed too is that, let's say a child is in daycare for a long amount of time, and then the parent picks up from daycare. And then what do we have? We have dinner, we have bath time, and we have like all the things to do. And the
Right.
parent's like, oh my God, there's so much to do. But yet the child has been separated from the parent all day. So all the child wants is just to connect. But in the parent's mind, it's like, I know, but we have so much to do. So I think even just carving out that little bit of time and kind of like that reconnection time is really, really important because that separation for a child is huge.
Yeah.
And not that that has to be a 3-hour thing, but that could be a 15-minute thing, 10-minute thing. But it's just, I've missed you so much. I was thinking about you today, or just anything that makes that child feel seen and heard, because that's the reality for so many parents is that,
Yeah.
their
And
kids
that's
have
why
to
I
go.
asked,
Yeah.
because I think
Yeah.
about how all the opportunities in the day that I have
Yeah.
to connect with my baby, and so many of my friends don't have that.
Yeah.
So I just felt like it's a question they might think of when they're hearing this episode.
And not just daycare, nannies too, right?
Yeah.
Regardless, like any separation.
Yes.
Or if they're with grandparents or other family members, right? Any separation, I would think that,
Yeah.
it's a good question.
So often it's like putting ourselves in our child's shoes.
Yeah.
And how do they see things? Especially when you bring another baby into the mix, and what that's like and what that feels like. And I think just, again, going back to energy and going back to being intentional, that part is really important. But knowing that for your child, that separation has been really huge. So they're going to look for any way that they can to reconnect. And it might be that they're going to start hitting,
Right.
because they're still going to get your attention. So for a child, attention is attention, whether it's positive or negative. Right? So, he's still getting 100% of you, even though it's not the behavior that you want to be seeing.
That's true.
I've heard of younger babies that are in daycare that were previously sleeping through the night. Then they start going to daycare, or little kids start going to school,
Gosh.
and then they start waking up at night. And I would think it's because they've been separated from you. And I kind of feel like that with my daughter, because she'll do a long stretch of sleep at night. And then she's kind of like, okay, I'm done being away from you now. And she's only awake for like 3 hours at a time at this point. But the entire morning, she wants me to hold her.
Yes.
And so I feel like she's telling me, I was away from you. I was sleeping in my crib for all this time. And now I'm ready to be close to you again.
And what goes through your mind?
I'm like, I have to make breakfast. I have to make lunch. I have to get ready. We have to go to school. And I'm like, you're a barnacle. I try to hold her basically the whole time and do everything with one arm.
Which is hard. It's hard.
It's hard, but also I'm like, I get it, because I'm trying to extend her grace.
That speaks to that intentionality.
Yeah.
That you've really tried to put yourself in her shoes to understand life from her perspective.
Yeah.
That's not easy. It's not easy to do,
Yeah.
because we're trying to control so much.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. I remember when my kids were younger, I was trying to control so much.
Well, there's so much to manage.
There's so much to manage.
And if you don't
Yes.
try to control it, it feels so chaotic, and you feel like you're just surviving.
Yes.
And you want to have some order. So I get it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yet in that trying to control, it creates so much stress.
Well, yeah.
We get so stressed, and guess who feels the stress? And guess who lets us know that they're feeling stressed?
Right.
Right? So, I think so much of it is about us as parents developing or remembering to have that sense of self-awareness, which is really, really hard because there's just so much going on, and that slowing down and kind of getting curious and what's this about, and is really, really hard. And yet our kids are just looking to us, right? They learn how to manage and regulate their emotions by how we manage and regulate ours.
Yeah.
That was like a game changer for me.
Yeah.
A
It's huge.
complete game changer, because I'm like, oh, wait.
Yeah. It's hard to remember that in the
Hard to remember
moment.
that.
So we came up with some just hard hitting,
Okay.
wrapping it up questions.
Let's do it.
What's one message you want every overwhelmed toddler parent to hear right now?
That you're okay.
Mhm.
You're okay, and that it's going to be okay. That what feels really, really stressful now is real. It's absolutely real. And it's not going to feel this way in 3 weeks, 3 months, a year. Things will get better. So to hang in there and give yourself grace.
Yeah.
I love it.
Sorry, I always ruin the games, but sometimes when I hear it's just a phase or something, I'm like, but is it a phase? Like, do I need to do anything or change anything, or will it just pass on its own? Because I worry that I'm, just digging myself into a deeper hole and the behavior is just going to continue to get worse. Or like, is it truly just a phase, and like keep the status quo and things will get better? And I'm sure it's situation by situation, but
I think that
It's-
self-talk is huge. Because imagine if I'm telling myself, oh my God, do I need to be worried about this? Is something new? But why is he not stopping this? Why does this keep happening? I don't know. Is this normal? Is this normal? How am I going to act? Versus if I'm telling myself, okay, I've got this. I can handle this. We're just going to take this one step at a time. I've got this. I can do this. Got this. This is not an emergency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It does
sometimes-
feel like an emergency, and it's so good to remind myself that it's not that big of an issue.
Right.
Because sometimes our stress about the thing can
Yeah.
prolong the thing. Because again, it all goes back to that energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like odds are going to feed off our energy.
Yeah.
I'm big on mantras.
Yeah.
This is not an emergency. My child's acting like a 2-year-old because he is a 2-year-old. My child's acting like a 3.5-year-old because they are a 3.5-year-old. The thing is, children act childish. I'm also really big on sticky notes. I love sticky notes. Those bright pieces of paper that you like put strategically around places in your house that might say things like connect or energy or you've got this or whatever just kind of helps you to reground
Yeah.
can be really, really helpful.
I love what you just said about how my baby's acting like a baby because he's a baby.
Right.
Children act childish because they're children.
Yes.
I think that if I repeated that to myself 10 times a day, I maybe wouldn't be so annoyed at my
go on
2-year-old.
sticky
That's a
note.
baby.
Yeah.
That can go on your sticky
That's
note.
true. I
Yeah.
like the sticky note thing because, like you said, there's so many things that we're juggling as parents. And just to have something bright and be like, connect. And then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, yeah. You can just stop spiraling about all of the things that need to get done and take a second. It's good for
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. What's the biggest myth we should stop telling parents about behavior or discipline?
That it's intentional or that your kids are manipulating you
Okay.
or that kids are being manipulative. Young children are not manipulative. That takes a lot of brain power and brain skill to be able to like think through. Kids lack impulse control and they lack emotional regulation. So our kids aren't trying to be difficult. And you may have heard the saying, I know it's very, very common, but you know, your kid's not being a problem, your kid's having a problem.
Mm.
So a lot of times it feels like they're doing it on purpose or they just should know better. But we talked about earlier, we know better that we're not supposed to yell, but we hit a breaking point. We're stressed, we're overwhelmed. It happens to us. So I think it's
my God.
just we have to give our kids the same kind of because they don't know. They do lack the skills. So even though it feels intentional,
We're both over here like,
Mine is
yes.
blown. My mind
so
is blown.
even though it feels like it feels manipulative, young children don't have the ability to manipulate in the way that we think about it.
So they're incapable of that.
Yes. It's more about cause and effect as opposed to manipulation. Oh, if I do this, that happens. If I hit mommy, she makes that face. It's kind of interesting when mommy makes that face. I want to see her make that face again. I'm going to do that again. That's really interesting. Oh, now she's yelling.
Well, it makes sense. Taylor will bring her son over and we're trying to get some work done. And then, you know, the kids are hitting each other because we stop what we're doing and we pay attention to them. And we're
Yeah.
like, just go play.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it makes sense.
Yes.
Sense.
Yeah.
That was so helpful for us. Hopefully also for all the listeners, but especially for us. Truly, I mean, parenting toddlers is not for the weak.
Oh God, it's the hardest.
It's so hard, but it is so fun.
Is it really the hardest?
Yeah, let us
I
know. Does it get better?
Tell me about the next ages and that.
Listen, it's all hard. Like it's all hard,
Yeah.
you know. But I do think I think the toddler stage is really particularly hard because they can be so unpredictable, right? We're still kind of new at it, trying to figure it out. We don't have all the answers yet.
They don't have all the words.
They don't have the words. They lack the impulses. They have those big feelings that they don't yet have the ability to manage and understand. So it feels really, really overwhelming.
Yeah.
So for you guys and for any parents out there listening, it does get easier.
Okay.
It absolutely does get easier. And at the same time, these years are so, so important. So just do the best that you can. You guys are doing amazing and important work. You're raising these little humans and you're their rock. Like you are their rock. So just know that you are doing beautiful, beautiful work.
Thank you so
And that they're
much.
lucky to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I learned so much, and we'll make sure to link out your info in case anyone needs toddler help.
Yes, which feels like we all do.
Yeah,
When I
feels like
talk
we all
to
do. Yeah.
I
Thank
did
you.
too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
get it. I absolutely get it. I've been there. I was in the trenches.
Yeah.
I had the spicy ones.
Yeah.
Still do.
Thank you
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
much,
but thank you
Debbie.
so much. And that's super reassuring that it gets
It does get
easier
easy.
and we get more skilled, like you said. Like as time goes on, we learn too. So
It's just about being gentle with ourselves, and not forgetting about your own needs and not dismissing yourself and knowing that how you feel is just as important
Yeah.
because also you're modeling that for your kids.
right.
That self-care is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank
so
you
much
so
for coming on,
much.
Debbie.
You're welcome.
And
Thank
thanks.
you for having me.
Yeah, thanks everyone for
Thanks for
listening.
listening.
Tune in next time.
Yeah. Thanks again.